Complex quotes has changed. It has new ways of arranging things. The filling in of the client company and so forth is the same as before, so that's identical. The job type, you need to have a job type. Title, description goes to where it goes to before. Variations is now different. Variations can be text. This is new. So var 1, hit the tab key to generate another one. Var 2, hit the tab key if you want. Hit the return key or hit the save button. So you now can have text in there instead of numerics, which is good. Now the quote parts, complex quotes have multiple parts. Hit the plus button. Each part can have its own, like for instance, I can have a part of this is a creative job for photography, and we want, say, 6 hours of photography. So I call this creative or photography or something, photo shoot, and then I can put the spec in for what the photography will be, and that can be multiple lines, and hit save. If I make another part, it can now, the other part of this job might be for offset printing, for instance, and we want 30,000 brochures. I can call that whatever I like. Give it a description of some sort, and then the spec with all the details that are required. Now I've got two parts for the project. One part is creative with 6 hours of time, and that's how much we're going to get cost for that. And we've got a print component for the brochures, and there's 30,000 brochures. So now we've separated the quantity out to be specific for the parts, and that's a lot more accurate for what it was. The details screen is basically the same. This stuff here is basically the same as it was, and so forth. And I'll make the quote. Then after I've made the quote, I can view the quote. This is identical to what it was before. It's a complex quote. I can view the quote, go to quote details. I've got my various parts. They've got their own description. They've got their own quantity. I've got my variation names, var 1 and var 2. It makes me the combination of the various parts and quantities. I can then send my request for price, or I can add my supplier's costs. If I add my supplier's costs, which happens a fair bit, I can then go and put in what part and what variation that I'm adding for. I can assign a product ID. I can then put in a supplier. This is all basically the same. Who at the supplier will receive this request. Now this is different. We now have a quantity in here. The quantity for the cost, it defaults to 6 because I applied the one which had 6 in it. If I drop down the list and change it to a different one, I'll get a different quantity. I can override that if I need to, and then I can put my cost in. So it might be a cost of 200 at 120% or whatever it is, and put my spec in there. So add that cost.